presentations, but I did want to give a very quick update on Old School Square. Two separate updates. The first one is regarding their current A-Guide agreement for fiscal year 2020-2021. To date, Old School Square has received only one of their quarterly payments. Their second quarterly payment was being withheld until we received their audit report. And at this time, that item is still pending. The second update is regarding their 2021-2022 A-Guide request. Applications, as I mentioned earlier, the applications were due May 21st, and while Old School Square did make a submission, their application package was considered incomplete due to the missing audit documentation. So the Funding Evaluation Committee did not review or score Old School Square's application.
And I'll just add to that, the audits that were missing were for fiscal year 18-19 and 19-20. Can you go to the next slide? So this is just for the board to discuss, or if anything, but we wanted to give an update because typically Old School Square is one of the applicants for A-Guide, and we wanted to give an explanation as to why we didn't have the presentations. So we went through this slide last year about the funding history for Old School Square. In the interest of time, I won't go year by year, but if you look in the past history, the series funding was $285,000, and for various reasons, year to year, it was increased to where I believe it was in 15-16, we had an additional ask of about almost $127,000, which was granted, and 17-18, I believe that amount went up to $900,000. But every year there was always statements about that funding being decreasing, going back down, but it seems to go up and up every year. So as far as staff's perspective, we are concerned about the increased level of funding and the continued ask for additional funding, although there are reasons. It's always been stated pretty much year to year that the funding is supposed to go back down. This year's request is for $750,000 again. The other thing too, we're a little concerned is that the presentations for A-Guide based on the schedule were today. So as you saw, all the other groups had presented, and Old School Square didn't. So we just wanted to bring this to the board's attention for comments and input, if any. And also we have Old School Square's team is here as well.
So of the 700, was it 750?
750,000.
They've got like 190,000 so far.
So we're looking at 2 different years. So for the application for fiscal year 2020-2021,
right,
we've only released 1 quarter, and that's because the audits were really due to us last year. But COVID, we worked with our groups, of course. So we released the payment to them and actually approved the funding and then released 1 payment. But now that we're getting into the next fiscal year,
right,
we started to look, okay, we still don't have the audits. We were told that the audit for fiscal year 18-19 would be due to, we would have it by July 31st, but we don't know when we'll have the following year's audit. So we're just kind of in that place. But we do want to review both audits before releasing any more funds, because again, we received this year's funding request and it's still for that increased amount and it hasn't reduced. So we like to see what's going on and trying to figure out if there's a reason why.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anyone else? I'd like to know why they're not presenting.
Right, the application was considered incomplete because we didn't have the audits.
And the reason you gave is that you've got a promise for the 18-19 July 31st.
Correct.
And the 19-20, no anything.
We don't. I believe maybe August. I don't know exactly when. We received a letter from their audit firm saying when we'd have the 18-19 audit, but we haven't seen a letter like that about the 19-20.
So they haven't met the requisite.
No, at this time the application is incomplete, so we did not have the review committee review the application. So we're waiting to see the audits and then determine what to do from there.
Does anyone want to?
When do we expect the audit to come in? I'm sorry, Madam Chair.
No, I'm sorry, Commissioner Gray.
When do we expect the audit report to come in?
For fiscal year 18-19, it would be July 31st. And then, but we're still due 19-20, and that I believe would be forthcoming possibly in August, but we haven't seen a letter from the audit firm stating that.
And is there anything else that's required?
That's the only thing missing at this time.